Sonic Adventure 2 will always be the most special Sonic game to me. It might not be my favorite, and it might not even be good, but it is the most special in my opinion. When I bought the first Sonic Adventure, I played through Sonic's story and I thought I was done with the game. I know, silly me. Anyway, a little bit after that, I went to the Xbox store and I saw it. Sonic Adventure 2, the sequel to my, at the time, second favorite Sonic game behind Generations. So, I clicked on the game in the store and $10? The last game was only $5, is this legal? I know it was only $10, but honestly, that was a lot for me back then. I had yet to get used to the ridiculous $60 Nintendo games on Switch at the time. I still think it's absolutely stupid that Mario Kart World is like $80. Like, seriously, that could be its own video. But anyway, I didn't officially purchase Sonic Adventure 2 for a little while after that, but eventually I did buy it, and I'll be honest, I didn't quite get into it back then. I remember playing the entire Dark story and getting to Pumpkin Hill and the Hero story. After that, I didn't really mess with it again. That is, until around a year ago, I remember I was watching Speeps Highway's Why Sonic Adventure 2 Battles Cutscenes Stink video, and I saw the part where Shadow and Sonic go super at the end of the game. I was kinda like, wait, there's a third story? And my interest was rekindled. I played the game from the beginning to end, and beat it. All throughout my playthrough, I thought, wow, this Sonic game, it's really something. Oh, and just in case you're curious, I also beat the first Sonic Adventure around the same time. Since then, I have played Sonic Adventure 2 many times, and the more I play it, the more I like it. So here are my thoughts on what is, in my opinion, one of the greatest Sonic games of all time. This video will obviously be split into several different sections, with each section covering a specific aspect of the game. There might be some callbacks to previous sections, but you should be able to watch these parts in any order you like. Alternatively, if you just want to hear my opinion on one specific thing, you can skip around to wherever you like. Now, let's get started. Sonic and Shadow's gameplay mechanics are almost identical, aside from a few differences in acquired abilities. I'll talk about Sonic's stages first. Sonic retains his basic controls from Sonic Adventure. He can still spin dash and light dash, though the latter has been adjusted to be quicker. The gameplay is much smoother in Sonic Adventure 2 and has a greater emphasis on quick thinking. The platforming is never overemphasized above speed. Overall, the things that Sonic Adventure did right with the gameplay are refined in Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic's story starts out really strong with City Escape, which needs no introduction at this point. Almost immediately, every gameplay element from Sonic Adventure is reintroduced, and you will need to know how to use all your basic moves to beat the level. This level also introduces some new mechanics like rail grinding, and I want to take a second to complain about rail grinding. In modern Sonic games, the focus when grinding rails is on jumping from rail to rail to avoid obstacles. In Sonic Adventure 2, the focus is instead put on just trying not to fall off the rail. Now, admittedly, I actually really like this system. In concept. In execution, trying to use the rails the intended way is almost impossible. Basically, what you need to do is use the thumbstick to lean in the direction you're turning in. If you lean on the rails correctly, you go much faster. The problem is that the leaning system is very sensitive, making precise movements on the rails almost impossible to do perfectly. If you tilt the thumbstick too far, Sonic will almost completely stop. Now, in theory, you could just hold the crouch button on all the rails and be fine for most of the game, but of course, this is a problem because you are encouraged to use the built-in system. So basically, the rails are broken and there's no way to fix them. This problem doesn't ruin the game or anything, but a major part of the advertising campaign was that Sonic would wear rail grinding shoes. So it doesn't really make any sense for one of your game's key elements to be poorly designed. But getting back into City Escape, the level is a perfect way to start off the game. The gameplay is strong, the music is excellent, the key gameplay elements are built into the environment in a way that makes sense, and the truck chases at the end will always be a top 10 Sonic moment. Diving into our next stage, we have Meadow Harbor. Again, great stage, great design. This level introduces the light dash. Wait a minute, that ability was in Sonic Adventure, right? Well, yes, but it's been updated. In the original, you had to do a spin dash to do a light dash. Well, in the sequel, you can simply press Y and you will do the same thing. This updated design adds to the seamlessness of the level and makes the light dash a speedy travel option rather than a brief pause in gameplay. Next, we have Green Forest. A lot of people claim this is the best level in the hero story. I don't necessarily disagree, but I do think the half-pipes you run along can be a little janky. But regardless, this stage has a nice emphasis on quick platforming. It works surprisingly well, and this is definitely a top 3 level. Next is Pyramid Cave. This stage is cool. I don't personally like how after pretty much back-to-back unique levels, there are now 3 straight desert levels. At least they're spread across the other characters. I like the new bounce ability you can obtain in the level. It's very bouncy. Oh, I don't really like the section where you need to carry a thing through a small area to open a door. Well, anyway, great level. Crazy Gadget is our next one, and this is where some problems start coming in. One of the main gimmicks of this level are these gravity switches. They change the gravity of the level to a different direction. This gimmick is interesting. There are some strange camera angles at the end of the level that make the controls a little difficult. Sure, it's not as bad as Skydeck, but it's still a little annoying regardless. I mostly just don't like how you must stop dead just to flip these switches. This level isn't bad by any means. The core mechanic can be a little annoying, that's all. And finally, we have Final Rush. This is a great level. There's a lot of rail grinding. I said the rail grinding was poorly designed, but I never said I didn't like it anyway. It especially works really well here, and that is Sonic's side of the story. The gameplay is just what we love from Sonic Adventure, but better. But of course, there's another side to the story. Let's talk about Shadow's levels. Shadow doesn't get a level until well into Dark Story, but his first level is one of the most iconic levels in Sonic history. Radical Highway is a great level. It emphasizes speed and wacky wall barriers. Good level. Next for Shadow we have White Jungle. This level is very similar to Sonic's version of the same area. I also have similar praises and complaints for this variant of the level, so pretty much everything I said about Green Forest applies here. Next, we have Skyrim. This level combines normal platforming with rail grinding in a way that feels nice. There is one part in this level that I think requires memorization to do correctly, but it doesn't ruin the level or anything. Finally, we have Final Chase. I like this level, but I'm not the biggest fan of these rotating cylinder things. When you get used to them, they're fine. If it's your first time, they are really janky. Again, not a level ruining offense. So that is the Sonic and Shadow side of the campaign. Also, again, the gameplay is Sonic Adventure refined. Overall, Sonic and Shadow's levels are absolutely the highlight of the game. So if those are the best levels, what's the competition? So I'm going to approach this section a little differently from the previous section. I'm going to step away from talking about individual levels, and I really want to talk in depth about the actual controls for Tails and Eggman's mechs. The reason I'm doing this is because Sonic and Shadow control really well, and most problems with their gameplay comes from the level design choice I didn't like. Meanwhile, most of Tails and Eggman's levels are the same general idea. Shoot things and do bad platforming segments. There are different level design choices and appearances, but I think if there's a big problem with their gameplay, it stems directly from rather poorly designed mech controls. Both Tails and Eggman's mechs have the same controls. For these levels, Sonic Team decided to take everything that made Gamma levels from Sonic Adventure so fun and make them worse. Some will describe the mech levels as clunky, but I personally hate this description because the reviewer will say the word and just expect you to know what it means. The problem with this is that the word is used many times in different contexts, and I think everybody kind of has their own assumed definition for it. So, if you are a reviewer watching this, maybe don't try to sum up everything you dislike about controls with one word and then never elaborate. Anyway, let's discuss the mechs. So, in Sonic Adventure, Gamma was fun to control because, while he was slower than the other characters, he never felt too slow. He was small and sleek. He not only moved at a decent speed, but he also jumped almost just as high as everyone else. You never really needed to stop, even when shooting enemies. It felt a little strange, but once you get the hang of it, Gamma is really fun to control. So, what about the mechs? Well, Sonic Team decided to remove the sleekness of Gamma and replace it with these heavy, tank-like mechs. First and foremost, the mechs are very slow. Getting anywhere with them feels a bit sluggish. When you turn, you must wait for the mech to do the turning animation. It's not a huge deal, but it certainly isn't that great either. As mentioned earlier, the mechs are very heavy. If you try to jump, you will just get the sorriest excuse for a jump I've ever seen. All these bad control decisions combine to create a less than desirable experience. I think the worst problem with the levels is the overemphasis on platforming. There isn't that much platforming in general, but in areas like Hidden Base and Stand Ocean, there's way too much platforming. As I said earlier, the mechs can't jump that high, and adding insult to injury, the sand in these desert levels have pretty bad hitboxes. If you just barely miss a jump to another platform, the sand will mock you with this painfully slow death animation. Sometimes, even if you barely make a jump, the sand will kill you anyway.
I don't like sand.
This doesn't sound too bad at first, after all, dying in a video game is just part of beating a level, but it starts to get frustrating when every time you die, it's to the exact same thing. It's especially bad in Sand Ocean because at this point in the story, Eggman doesn't have his hover ability yet. At least in Hidden Base, Tails can hover to make platforming a little easier. Now, in retrospect, these are the worst mech levels in the game. Where does that leave the others? Well, the levels that focus more on blasting away enemies are definitely better. Prison Lane is fun because it's just running through and shooting enemies. It's a similar situation with levels like Mission Street and Iron Gate. If a level is bad, it's probably just because of the platforming. Now again, platforming in these mech levels could work. Gamma's levels are proof of that. The problem is that the mechs simply aren't agile enough to handle this semi-complex platforming. Don't misunderstand, I'm not saying the platforming is super hard, I'm just saying that it's really janky and it's not fun. Every time you die to that stupid sand, it feels like an eternity before you can get back to where you were. Now, does that make the mech levels bad? No, I don't think so. Despite the awful platforming, the mech levels can be fun when they focus more on shooting. While the mech levels are probably the worst levels in the game, that doesn't mean they're bad. They're very decent levels. They're not carrying the game, and they aren't too frequent, so despite shortcomings, the mech levels are fine. But only fine. Okay, so I'm going to change things up, again. With the treasure hunting levels, I will talk about the game's mechanics a lot. Then, I will point out several levels that are good or bad. Now, the main complaint that many people have with these new treasure hunting levels is the new radar. In Sonic Adventure, the radar would tell you the position of all the emeralds at once. In Sonic Adventure 2, the radar will only tell you the location of one emerald at a time. This usually means that you need to run around looking for a single emerald shard and then run around the same area to find another one. Then you must do it again for the last one, every single level. It truly baffles me that Sonic Team did this. Yes, the levels are longer, but they're also more frustrating. There's so much backtracking now, and it just feels pointless. The fix is so easy, so why not just make the radar work like it did in Sonic Adventure? Why would you intentionally make your levels worse? Thankfully, there is a mod that fixes this. Unfortunately, I couldn't use it for this review because I had to play the game in its original state. And honestly, I don't think I would use the mod even for a personal playthrough. Honestly, even if the mechanic is poorly thought out, it will always still just feel like cheating to me. So thank you, Sonic Team. This mechanic is bad, and I can't fix it without guilt-tripping myself. But I digress. The irony of these treasure hunting stages is that I used to despise playing them, but now they're the only stages I get A ranks in. I'm not even kidding, I still only barely get an A rank in City Escape, and yet I get a bunch of A ranks in these stupid treasure hunting stages. Because of this, these stages have only become more fun to play. They're still not great and are far from the hype of the Sonic stages, but I at least have some fun with them now. With that being said, these stages have serious issues. They start out strong at first. Both Wild Canyon and Dry Lagoon are fairly sized. They're big enough to be fun, but not big enough to be overwhelming. Overall, these two levels are a very strong start. However, the cracks begin to show when you get to Pumpkin Hill. Do not misunderstand, Pumpkin Hill is a good level. However, Pumpkin Hill is where the devs make it very clear that these next treasure hunting stages are going to be big. I mention it because Pumpkin Hill is the first stage where it feels like you are going to the same places repeatedly. It's not terrible, but it is a problem. Again, the radar is not helping at all. There are several times where I have been very close to a shard, but not quite close enough to set off the radar. Don't worry though, the levels get much worse. Rouge doesn't fare too much better. After Rouge's first level, the game throws you right into Headquarters. Again, Headquarters is by no means a bad level, but let me tell you, at best, you will take a fair amount of time to find all the keys. At worst, you will run in circles repeatedly. Knuckles has a very similar level in the hero campaign called Death Chamber. This level is so similar to Rouge's level that if it weren't for the slight design changes that alter your strategy, I would almost say it's a carbon copy. After Headquarters, Rouge's next level is Security Hall. From my experience, Security Hall is a very divisive level in the Sonic community. In my opinion, it is one of Rouge's best levels. If you've played it a few times already, it doesn't matter how experienced you are with any Sonic game. If it's your first time playing Security Hall, you will die at least once. The gimmick of this level is the time limit. You have just 5 minutes to find 3 Chaos Emeralds. In concept, this is a really great idea. Unfortunately, this level is awful unless you already know where everything is. Sometimes a Chaos Emerald will be locked in a safe. To open the safe, you need to find a small room on the top level and pull a switch. Now, if you've played the level before and you know where this room is, this added challenge actually makes the level more fun in my opinion. However, if you've never played it before, you need to go out of your way and figure out where this room is. It is very unlikely that you will find the room and figure out the puzzle along with finding all the other emeralds within just 5 minutes. So if you're a beginner, you are forced to suffer from the game's terrible lack of communication. I don't have a problem with dying in the process of beating a level. I do have a problem with dying repeatedly to something that doesn't feel like my fault. Figuring all this out on your first attempt at this stage is practically impossible. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think I am. Mercifully, you can keep the previously collected emeralds if you die to an enemy or obstacle. I think the emeralds only reset if time runs out. Still, this level is just not great on a first playthrough. Good thing this is my 6th playthrough! Ha! All these problems, the annoying gimmicks, the large areas, climax dramatically in the worst level in the game by far, Aquatic Mine. If you're a longtime fan of the channel, you know that I absolutely despise water stages. Aquatic Mine is no exception. The thing about Aquatic Mine is that there's an ability hidden in the stage that gives you unlimited air underwater. This removes the air bubble obstacle completely, which is good. My problem with that is that after finding this ability, the water is now just a pointless obstacle. It's nothing more than an annoyance. I really don't understand why Sonic Team is so insistent on putting a water level in almost every Sonic game. They've almost never done it right. But the water is only half the problem with this level. This level is also basically a maze, because of course it is. In the level, there are 3 switches. These switches change the water level, which unlocks access to different areas. Naturally, this just makes the level even more redundant. You'll be repeatedly changing the switches to see if it unlocks the correct area. More going back and forth, great! All that combined with the stupid Emerald Radar makes for a pretty miserable experience. This is the only level in the entire game I just straight up hate. I flinch when the title appears on the screen. Now you may be wondering why I don't hate Meteor Herd and Mad Space. Well, that's simple. Lots of people hate these levels for the sheer scale, but once you know your way around, it would be an easy level. I say would because yet again, the Emerald Radar directly makes this level worse. It's the same problem with Pumpkin Hill. The scale wouldn't be a problem if you get all the emeralds just by exploring the area once. There is no reason you should be forced to go all the way to the top of the level and then all the way back down. So overall, I actually kind of like the treasure hunting levels. Again, most major issues stem from the radar system rather than the level design. Once you get used to that one terrible gameplay element, the treasure hunting levels can be fun. I can't say that first time players will like them though. It's something that kind of gets better as you play the game more. So in summary, at first they're bad, play the game a few times though and you might like them. So I could be wrong, but I think this is the first time that I've put bosses in their own section in a video. I might have done this before, but it's very rare. I don't think I did this in my first Sonic Adventure video, but I'm not sure. I think I may have talked about the bosses, but they didn't have their own timestamp. Well, anyway, the bosses in Sonic Adventure 2 are pretty okay. They range from fine to good, but never exceed that. The first boss you fight, the F6T Bigfoot, is pretty easy. If you're new to the game, you fight the boss the normal way. Wait until it stands on the ground and attack. If you're a bit more experienced, you can try standing on the boxes and hitting the boss by jumping into it while it's flying. While the second method is faster, it's just a bit riskier. Overall though, this boss is pretty easy. So explain to me why I have to fight 3 separate variants of it. While yes, the boss is adjusted to only fly for Rouge, that somehow just makes it even easier. Obviously, these are the worst bosses in the game. They're not bad by any means, they're just kinda fine. The bosses that have really improved from the last game are the rival bosses. The first of these rival bosses is Tails vs. Eggman. This boss is not great. You just spam the fire button and win. You can beat this boss in less than 20 seconds for both Eggman and Tails. However, the next boss is Sonic vs. Shadow. This is where things get a little bit more interesting. While this boss isn't hard, it's a huge step up from the awful rival battles in Sonic Adventure. Your opponent in the battle now actively tries to defend himself instead of just running and attacking. Again, this boss isn't hard, but it's an evolution. These rival battles continue to get a little bit better with every new boss. By the final Sonic vs. Shadow fight, Shadow puts up a pretty decent fight. Overall though, these bosses are not the best in the game. The best boss in the game is probably Egg Golem for both Eggman and Sonic. I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I really enjoyed this boss. No matter what is happening, you're always doing something, it's pretty fun. Oh yeah, and the final Tails vs. Eggman boss is pretty cool too. King Boom Boo is okay. But I'm talking about another boss in the same style a little later. For now though, I would like to complain about Kart Racing. So in both the Hero and the Dark stories, there's a kart racing level for some reason. This kart racer is just about the most generic thing I have ever played since Sonic Drift. In these levels, you will drive through a set of turns to get to the goal. That's it, that's literally it. There is no real challenge, and very few obstacles and interesting gimmicks. It really just feels like a pointless side quest the game is forcing you to do. There is a time limit, so that kind of adds some challenge, I guess. There's also drifting, or at least, I think it's drifting. I just really don't understand why these levels exist. They're technically a new style of gameplay, but they feel really out of place. So yeah, down with kart racing. Anyway, back to the main topic. In my opinion, what makes Sonic Adventure 2 stand out is the story. The story is what really carries the game for me. I think Sonic Adventure 2 still has the most interesting story in the series to date. Maybe I'm biased, but still, Sonic Adventure 2's story is way more interesting than it has any right to be. I'm going to give it a bit of a lengthy explanation so that those who haven't played the game know what's going on. Although if you haven't played the game, I urge you to do so instead of watching this summary. This is mostly just for people who aren't gamers and enjoy listening to me talk for some reason. One last thing, I won't be talking about the final story until another section, so just spoilers for the main story in this section. The story begins with Eggman invading a military base to steal their top secret weapon. After reaching the heart of the base, Eggman finds the weapon, Shadow the Hedgehog. We'll discuss his motives a little later. After Eggman frees him, Shadow demonstrates his power by destroying a gun mech. Or at least, that's what seems to be implied, I'm not quite sure. Also, just so you know, Gun is a military organization. Shadow has some beef with them, but we'll also discuss that later. Shadow tells Eggman he will grant him one wish. When Eggman asks for more information, Shadow tells him to get more Chaos Emeralds and meet him on the Ark. The Ark is a space colony that has been abandoned for 50 years. Meanwhile, Sonic has been captured by Gun because they mistake him for Shadow. After Sonic expresses his irritation with the lack of movie options on the Gun helicopter, he jumps off. After running away from Gun through the city, he meets Shadow. Sonic quickly realizes that Gun is mistaking him for Shadow. Shadow uses his Chaos Emerald he stole to make this really cool slow motion shot. He then warps away. Somewhere else, Rouge, the world-famous treasure hunter, is trying to take the Master Emerald from Knuckles. Eggman comes out of nowhere and steals the Master Emerald right from in front of Knuckles. But we can't have that, so Knuckles jumps up and shatters the Master Emerald. Knuckles does this because he can recover the shards and rebuild the Emerald. Of course, this is the excuse we get for several hours of super awesome treasure hunting levels. Eggman gets back to his base and learns about Shadow robbing the bank. Meanwhile, Rouge is trying to get into Eggman's base. She finds out Eggman has gone to the Ark and she says it's her mission to find out what he's up to. On the Ark, Shadow explains his diabolical plan to Eggman. Several decades ago, Eggman's grandfather Gerald created the Eclipse Cannon inside the Ark. It has enough power to destroy an entire planet. However, to activate it at full power, you need all 7 Chaos Emeralds. Otherwise, it only has enough power to destroy like half the moon. We can't have that! Anyway, Rouge swoops in and offers to help find the Chaos Emeralds. Rouge leads Eggman and Shadow to Prison Island, where a few emeralds are being held by Gun. Eggman lays out his genius plan. He will distract Gun, Shadow will place the piece of dynamite to blow up the island, and Rouge will steal all the emeralds. After Eggman blows some stuff up, the group meets up one more time before the rest of the plan goes in motion. Suddenly, Amy pops in out of nowhere and tries to hug Shadow. She mistakes him for Sonic. I really don't know why Shadow looks so similar to Sonic, but whatever. This scene is still pretty funny. Coincidentally, Tails is flying his plane/mech right above Amy when Eggman is about to attack her. Just so you know, Tails is here to rescue Sonic from prison. Remember how he got captured again earlier? He's being held here. Tails drops down just in time to save Amy. After defeating Eggman, Tails breaks into Prison Island and Amy rescues Sonic. Around the same time, Rouge has infiltrated another part of Prison Island to steal the Chaos Emeralds. Despite telling Shadow to set the timer on the bomb to just 5 minutes, Shadow sets the bomb to 15 minutes. It's a good thing too, because after collecting all the Chaos Emeralds, Rouge gets attacked by another gun vehicle. Rouge gets locked in a safe, and Shadow has 10 minutes to save her before the island blows up. Again, motives later. On the way to saving Rouge and the emeralds, Shadow runs into Sonic while he's trying to escape the island. They fight, and I think it's kind of a tie. Sonic finds out the island's gonna explode and makes a break for it. Sonic finds Tails and Amy. Shadow rescues Rouge, and all of them just barely make it off the island before it blows up. On a side note, for most of this campaign, Knuckles is just searching for emerald shards. I'm not going to mention him a lot until the very end. Anyway, Eggman uses the Eclipse Cannon to demonstrate his power to the world by blowing up half the moon. Now, the president has 24 hours to submit to Eggman, or Eggman will blow up his country, I guess. Rouge tells Eggman the final emerald is with Tails. This will be pretty important for later. Speaking of which, Tails uses the power of the Chaos Emerald to try to find Eggman. That doesn't work, so Tails instead tries to track the president's limo. Since the president is negotiating with Eggman, Tails can use the call signal to track Eggman's location. After finding out Eggman is on the Ark, Knuckles shows Sonic and Tails where Eggman's secret pyramid base is. Oh yeah, and Shadow and Rouge pursue Tails' plane while he flies to the pyramid. They alert Eggman so he can ambush them a little later. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles all do their separate missions to get into the base. Eggman then ambushes them with an egg golem as mentioned earlier. Sonic makes it malfunction, and it becomes Eggman's problem. Sonic and his friends take a space shuttle to the Ark. Mid-flight, Knuckles tries to take control of the shuttle because the emerald shards start to fall out. They all barely make it onto the Ark. While on board, Tails shows Sonic and Amy this fake Chaos Emerald. He explains that it has the same properties, but is less powerful than the real one. Sonic's job is to place the fake Chaos Emerald in the control room. This will cause the Eclipse Cannon to malfunction. Sonic ends up making it to the control room, but gets a call from Eggman over his walkie-talkie. Eggman has kidnapped Amy and is threatening to kill her. Oh yeah, Knuckles continues to search for the emeralds and has a quick run-in with Rouge. That's not super important, except for character development. Anyway, Sonic finds Eggman, Eggman magically finds out the Chaos Emerald is fake, and ejects Sonic from the Ark. Yeah, Tails is here too. He fights off Eggman to avenge Sonic, but spoiler alert, Sonic isn't dead. I mean, come on, he still has like 24 more games to star in. It's probably more than that. But anyway, he uses Chaos Control with the fake emerald to escape the pod before it explodes. As Tails said, the fake emerald has the same properties as the real one. It's just less powerful. Also, this isn't really relevant, but Does this part of the cutscene sort of look like a Blender Eevee render? I always get to this part of the game, and I think the lighting in this part of the cutscene just looks kinda realistic. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Anyway, Sonic races through the final level of the game. His goal is to destroy the Eclipse Cannon by dunking the emerald into the cannon right as it's about to fire. Before he can get there, he's confronted by Shadow. They have a little talk and start fighting. The game kinda treats the fight like either Shadow or Sonic can win, but it seems that Sonic canonically wins. I guess I should talk about what Eggman and the others have been doing all this time. Well, right after Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles took off on the rocket, Rouge tricked Eggman into giving her the password for the ARC computer. She then searches for emerald shards, and has her little run-in with Knuckles. Meanwhile, Eggman notices that there are 2 emerald signals on the ARC, so he figures one of them must be fake. That's how he knows for later. Eggman heads back to the ARC, kidnaps Amy, and you know the rest. While this is going down, Shadow catches Rouge getting ready to steal the Chaos Emeralds. Rouge has actually been a government spy the whole time. Rouge shows Shadow some information she found, and says that he might not even be the ultimate life form. He is though, don't worry. Shadow is commanded by Eggman to stop Sonic from stopping the Eclipse Cannon, leading to this final battle. After Sonic wins this battle, Sonic calls Tails over the walkie-talkie. He tells Tails to look out the window of the ARC. While Tails is distracted, Eggman slips away to put the last Chaos Emerald into the ARC. Tails looks out the window to see Sonic blowing up the Eclipse Cannon. And that's the entire story up until Final Story. I've always really liked this story, and I still do. I have some minor problems with how the story is told. Everything can be a little confusing to understand since the cutscenes are divided between 2 stories. There are a few story beats I don't like, but these complaints are incredibly minor. The story is great in my opinion, but it wouldn't be nearly as good if not for these incredible cutscenes. These cutscenes have aged so badly, and they're probably worse than Sonic Adventure cutscenes. They are stupid, cheesy, and I love them to death. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to play some of my favorite cutscenes from the game. I'll only be showing a few clips, and I don't know how long this segment will be in the script phase. I'll put timestamps in the video description, and on the screen for you if you want to skip this segment. Anyway, I proudly present the best of Sonic Adventure 2.
Sigma Alpha 2 heading due south over the city. We're en route. Everything's a go.
This is Control Tower. We have you on radar. Report cargo status of captured Hedgehog aboard. Over.
That's a 10-4. Cargo secured on board and... What?
Didn't copy that.
Hedgehog is
Over.
gone. He's taken out everyone aboard and...
What's wrong?
What in the
Come in.
world?
Over.
Freeze! What do you think you're doing? Get that hedgehog!
Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies. I'm out of here. I like running better. Now I know what's going on. The military has mistaken me for the likes of you. So, where do you think you're going with that emerald? Say something, you fake hedgehog!
Chaos control!
Wow, he's fast! Hey, it's not his speed. He must be using the Chaos Emerald to warp.
My name is Shadow. I'm the world's ultimate life form. There's no time for games. Farewell!
Okay, everyone ready? Shadow, Rouge, on with the show!
Oh, Sonic! I thought I'd never see you again. I'm so glad you made it. You're not Sonic. Who are you?
I'm the one who should be asking.
Dr. Eggman! Ah!
Huh? Amy?
Shh. Keep your voice down. Have no fear. Amy Rose is here.
How'd you get here?
Well, if you gotta know, I caught a ride with Tails. Are you sure you don't need my help? It looks like you could use it.
The reason I'm in here is because of that fake hedgehog.
You mean that black hedgehog?
Did you see it? Where is it now?
If I tell you, will you marry me?
No way!
I thought I had you this time.
You little thieves. Did you really think you could get out of here alive?
Come and get some, Eggman! Just leave it to me.
This time, I'll take your lives as well as the Chaos Emerald. I call on you to destroy these pests. Come out, my servant. Now go and squash that blue hedgehog, Sonic.
To the end!
When Sonic struck his head, he must have broken the restraining mechanism. Ah, what a piece of junk!
You never cease to surprise me, Blue Hedgehog. I thought that capsule you were in exploded in space.
You know, what can I say? I die hard. You actually saved me, you know.
It was a Chaos Emerald, wasn't it? But there's no way you could have activated the Chaos Control using an emerald that's fake. So, there's more to you than just looking like me. What are you, anyway?
What you see is what you get. Just a guy that loves adventure. I'm Sonic the Hedgehog.
I see. But you know, I can't let you live. Your adventuring days are coming to an end.
It's finally time to talk about Final Story. I'll describe what's going on first. Eggman has attempted to fire the Ark, but instead the Ark begins descending rapidly towards the Earth. A video of Robotnik's grandfather shows up on the screen, and he says that the Ark will destroy all life on Earth when it crashes. Now it's finally time for an explanation of Shadow's motives, and Gerald Robotnik's legacy. 50 years ago, Gerald created the ultimate life form, Shadow the Hedgehog, in an attempt to heal his granddaughter Maria. Maria suffers from neuroimmunodeficiency syndrome, and she lives on the space colony Ark to keep her illness in check. Shadow and Maria have some time together on the Ark. However, shortly after the creation of Shadow, Gunn invades the Ark in order to cover the dangerous project up. They kill many of Gerald's colleagues, including Maria. After this tragedy, Gerald loses his mind. Before his execution, he changes the Ark to collide with Earth when Eggman puts all the Chaos Emeralds back. He also alters Shadow's memory. Before Maria died, she launched Shadow down to Earth in an escape pod. Before she ejected him, she told him to give the people of Earth a chance to be happy. Shadow was designed to be the protector of the world. However, Gerald skewed Shadow's memory. For all of Sonic Adventure 2, Shadow believes that Maria's dying wish was for revenge. That's why he seemingly tricks Eggman into collecting all the Chaos Emeralds. He is Gerald's accomplice. He also wants to destroy the world. So while everyone else is trying to stop the Ark's descent, Shadow stares out the window. In his mind, this is exactly what Maria wanted. But then Amy comes in. She tries to convince Shadow that saving the world is a good thing. This causes Shadow to remember his promise to Maria, and he is immediately willing to help Sonic and the rest. Shadow rushes down to the core of the Ark to defeat the Bio Lizard, a prototype that controls the Ark. However, even after he defeats him, and Knuckles stops the Chaos Emeralds, the Bio Lizard merges with the Ark. The Ark will still smash into the Earth. The only way to stop it is with a really epic Super Sonic and Super Shadow boss fight. Sonic and Shadow successfully defeat the Bio Lizard and use Chaos Control to stop the Ark. Shadow, seemingly worn out from the massive Chaos Control, falls to Earth, satisfied. Don't worry, he'll be back. So, what do I think of this ending to Sonic Adventure 2? Well, from a story perspective, I don't think Sonic has ever had a stronger emotional climax. Despite this though, I think a lot of people will think the cutscenes are just too goofy to deliver the more serious story Sonic Team wanted to tell. I get that, but I still think the story is fairly strong. I think the best thing about the story is the impact it left on the franchise. It added opportunities for additional lore for the series. Shadow would get a super convoluted backstory a few years later. Maria and Gerald would reappear in Shadow Generations. Out of all the Sonic games with a somewhat complex story, this is the best one. Maybe it does take itself too seriously. Maybe it is too stupid to be a good story. I don't know. But Sonic Adventure 2 is weird and nostalgic and funny and stupid and frustrating and interesting and strange, and I just really like it. But anyway, let's talk about gameplay. The final story starts off by doing something that I almost always hate in video games. A really long level with only a few checkpoints, and if you die, you start all over. You could say that Meteor Herd and Mad Space are like this, but you probably won't die in these levels. At the very least, you won't die enough to get a game over. The final story level is not a super easy level. I mean, if you've beaten the entire game before it, it's not too hard. It's mostly the fact that it's really long. And it's constant action. You're always risking death to move forward. Now, if this was just an optional challenge level, I wouldn't mind this as much. However, this level is required to beat the main game. Of course, I can beat this level first try because I played this game several times before. If you are playing for the first time, you probably will die, and you probably will have to start this absurdly long level from the very beginning. Now, I would usually forgive a long level if it's fun to play, but honestly, this level just isn't that great. The level begins with 2 mech segments, and right away the tone is set for the rest of the level. You run through and there are like 20 billion artificial chaos enemies. I hate artificial chaos enemies. These arc levels are riddled with them, but they are especially bad in mech levels. Most of the time you just end up standing in front of them, waiting for them to be vulnerable to attack. Oh, and if you miss, you take a pretty fair amount of damage. In mech levels, every single hit from enemies counts, so when you're standing in front of one of the most annoying enemies in the game for an extended period of time, you're probably going to get annoyed. These mech levels are followed up by treasure hunting levels. Rouge and Knuckles levels are pretty simple. You just find a button and press it to progress. However, Knuckles' segment is underwater. Why? Now, this segment can be easy if you have the special ability that gives Knuckles unlimited air. If you don't have this ability, you better be really careful not to drown in this segment. After all that, you finally get to play as Sonic. Unfortunately, it's some of Sonic's worst gameplay in the game. The segment is really short, even shorter than the other segments. When you finish the level, you can finally save your progress. After this level, you fight the Bio Lizard as Shadow. I have pretty mixed feelings about this boss. On one hand, it's very iconic, and the boss looks pretty cool. On the other hand, this boss is just kind of fine. I think my biggest issue with it is the energy spheres it fires at you. You either have to roll under or jump over them. I simply don't think the game gives you enough time to react. It's just enough that I can dodge it most of the time, but it's just really annoying. I don't think it's quite unfair, but it's definitely a challenge for the wrong reasons. After the Bio Lizard, you fight the final hazard, which is just the Bio Lizard attached to the Ark. Now, in theory, this boss is really good. My issue is that, in this boss, you can't take damage. However, if you get hit by the laser, you get knocked super far away from the weak point you need to hit. If this only happens once or twice, it's fine, but when it happens over and over and over again, at a certain point it just feels stupid. It's the final boss of the game, and the main theme is playing really loud in the background. You're supposed to win on first try. These supersonic fights usually make you feel really cool. If you die even once on this boss, the mood completely dies. If you get really burnt out and you die multiple times, you just want to beat the boss and be done with it. In a good boss battle, even if you die, you want to keep trying to beat it because it doesn't feel unfair. You should think that you're not good enough to beat the boss yet. You keep attempting it to get better at the game. Here, it just feels like the boss is really annoying for the sake of being annoying. I just want to beat the game, and this boss is one more thing in the way, nothing more. A final boss should never feel like that. Anyway, in conclusion, the final story has a good climax to the story, but the gameplay is not great. I don't think it's terrible, but it's not a great last impression. I had to think for a while about what my final rating for this game would be. I have complained a lot in this review, and I started to question whether this game even deserves a good rating from me. I've always liked the game, and I really want to give it a great score, but I have to be honest, this game is just not that great. It hasn't aged super well, and I would argue that most people that praise it so much are simply biased. So, as for my rating, this game really doesn't deserve any higher than a 6 out of 10. But I don't care! 10 out of 10! Yeah, that's right! You people in the comments can call me biased all you want, but newsflash! It doesn't matter! Also, a little footnote, I don't really understand why people are so afraid of the Nintendo ninjas when the Sega ninjas are very much real.